Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and today we are talking bosses, and in particular the raid bosses of Antorus the Burning Throne, the final raid of World of Warcraft Legion. And as you'd expect from an instance that is the culmination not just of the whole expansion, but also arguably 15 years of storytelling, Blizzard is wheeling out the big guns for this one. Antorus will see us fighting our way into the very heart of the Legion's power and facing off against the most powerful demons, the most senior Eredar generals, dead titans, corrupted titans, new titans, and of course the big bad himself, Sargeras. Okay, so at this point it hasn't actually been confirmed that we're fighting Sargeras, but it's kind of like when you go to a Lou Bega concert. You can't guarantee he's going to play Mambo No. 5, but even if it takes a third encore and a mythic only phase, it's a pretty solid bet that he will, you know? Now that, Internet, is a lineup and a half. Now just to be clear, this video will not tell you how to actually beat these bosses. This video is to tell you who these guys actually are in the first place. So why has King Garoth got no legs? How did Varimathras end up in prison? And exactly what is Eonar's abs program? Because seriously, I need to get on that program. And a quick note on the footage in this video. I hate trying raid bosses on the PTR because I like to go into them blind when the raid launches. But luckily, Hazelnutty Games is on hand to supply all of the actual gameplay footage that we'll see here from her awesome raid guides. And also Noon182 for some of the later stuff. He does some incredible things with the PTR. Definitely go and check out in about 16 minutes time after you join us to explore the boss lore of Antorus the Burning Throne, okay? Go, 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 go. All raid bosses are equal, but some are more equal than others, and never has that been more true than in Antorus, because in this raid we will be fighting some of the most important lore characters in the history of the game. Characters who literally formed and ordered the world that we exist in-game. And then there's Garothi Worldbreaker, who's just a big robot really, isn't he? And yeah, okay, so he is an especially big robot, but generally he's going to be pretty familiar to anyone that's ever fought a big Legion robot before. I mean, seriously, is there just one guy that designs all these big Legion robots, or what? Well, yes, actually. King Garoth is a completely separate boss in Antorus, but it's worth talking about these encounters together, because lore-wise, they are intrinsically linked. King Garoth is the mastermind behind every Legion war machine you've ever encountered in-game, and yes, that means he is responsible for that noise that the Fel Reaver in the Blasted Land makes. Blame him. And in the case of the machines on Argus, he actually builds them as well, or rather, he spawns them. Over the centuries, King Garoth has physically infused his actual body into the assembly line machinery to more efficiently produce his creations, which, fair play, is showing a real dedication to his job. I mean, imagine if Zack Snyder physically grafted himself into the Warner Brothers studio hardware so that he could churn out shit DC movies even faster. That's the kind of terrifying we're talking here. That's exactly what King Garoth is doing, and the Garothi Worldbreaker is his Justice League. This bad boy is King Garoth's ultimate creation, specifically commissioned by Sargeras himself to repel the Argus invaders, which is you. Yes, this machine has been built specifically to defeat you and your raiding party. It knows you. It knows your every weakness. So get ready to be destroyed as the Worldbreaker hits you with its very first ability, which it knows is the last thing you'll be expecting. Some swirlies you have to soak on the ground. Yeah, it's okay, boys. We've got this. Carry on. With the Worldbreaker down, you've got a clear run on Antorus itself, and the Legion have no option but to release the Hounds. And the Felhounds are Sargeras' own personal prized pets. So, you know, obviously they're the size of buses, have glowing skulls for heads, and are bred for pure carnage. And look, if you ever needed any proof at all of the pure evil that is Sargeras, and here's your answer once and for all. Look at the names he's given them. Now, I can guarantee that Fahag and Shatug did not have a good time in school, okay? They've got every reason to be angry with the world, and actually, I'm kind of on their side. It's important to understand that Argus didn't always look like someone left Slimer in the oven for 20 years. It was once a vibrant, glittering paradise and home to probably the most advanced and cultured civilization in the universe, the Eredar. And the thing is, apart from the handful of exiles that Prophet Velen took with him when Kil'jaeden and Archimonde decided that Fel was swell, it is essentially the same government and army in place now as it was then. And so it is that where once the three elite military minds of the Antoran High Command maintained peace on their own planet, we now find them utilizing the full might of the Legion armies to quite literally wage the burning crusade across the galaxies. Hey, and don't forget, we established in 1000 Years of War that 1 year on Azeroth is roughly equivalent to 100 years on Antorus, because spacey, wacy, timey-wimey. So this is a war they've been fighting for 2.5 million years. I mean, say what you like about Fel corruption, but these three are doing okay, all things considered. Admiral, General, and Chief Engineer all share one open plan office in Antorus, from which they maneuver their various various forces across the galaxy from their control pods. Chief Engineer Ishkar is the one we're probably most familiar with. You might remember him from such classic moments as shooting down the Xenadar about 3 seconds after it came out of hiding. Admiral Svirax prefers conference calls. We've seen her before chatting with Zakar in the Antoran Wastes via live feed. But General Erodus is the real enigma here. All we know about him is that he might favour burning fell armour now, but in happier times he was a fan of a dashing pointy hat that he still keeps about his person for old time's sake, ready to be looted by you, the old romantic. Argus isn't the only world that the Legion has absorbed into its forces rather than obliterating outright, and those demons that you're used to seeing throughout the world of Warcraft are drawn from different homeworlds, all under the command of Sargeras. Hasabel's role is to maintain the summoning portals that transport those forces to and from the front lines. So basically every time you've seen a big glowing green portal with demons pouring out of it in-game, it was Hasabel on the other side calling the shots. She's basically Geordie LaForge if Geordie LaForge was a Doom Maiden. And a Doom Maiden is just an Eredar that has grown wings through demonic influence. And fun fact, apart from Kil'jaeden, it's only female Eredar that can grow wings, which technically makes Kil'jaeden a Doom Maiden, I think, but we don't have time for that. The most interesting thing about Hasabel is that she opens portals to the 3 main demon worlds and calls forth terrifying champions from across the stars to her aid. That's right, you and your party get to step through these portals and be transported all the way to a platform just above the main arena. But never mind, you still get to fight Vulcanar from the fire infernal world of Zoroth, Lady Dassadon from the spidery Rancora, and most excitingly of all, Lord Eilgar, a Doom Lord from Nasretha. And it's absolutely heartbreaking that we don't get a glimpse at these worlds themselves, especially since once we kill Hasabel, their main transport links are cut off, leaving them stranded wherever they happen to be in the Great Dark Beyond. And therefore this is presumably the last time we're going to see any of these races for the foreseeable future. Varimathras is one of the first truly old-school WoW characters that makes his appearance in this video. Even if he's not the first that you'll come across in the raid itself, he's another Nathrazim whose story began over 15 years ago IRL time, when he and 2 other Dreadlords, Detharok and Balnazar, who priests and paladins recognise from their Legion Order Hall campaigns, were tasked by Archimonde to keep tabs on the undead in Lordaeron, while Archimonde went and got himself blown up climbing a tree. When Arthas decided that he wanted Lordaeron back, Varimathras allied with the newly dead Banshee Sylvanas Windrunner, and together they scared the Lich King off and took back Lordaeron for the Forsaken, Varimathras proving his loyalty to the Dark Lady by supposedly killing his kin Balnazar and then helping Sylvanas build the Undercity, where Horde players would find him throughout Vanilla and BC. Indeed, if you were a Horde player back then, it was Varimathras who gave you the quest that sent you to Scarlet Monastery. Long story short, never trust a Dreadlord, Varimathras hadn't really killed Balnazar at all, and together they were plotting against Sylvanas the whole time. Psych, which culminated in the betrayal at the Wrathgate, which is when the famous Battle for Undercity event saw players sneak into the Undercity with their faction leaders and take out Varimathras once and for all. But of course, demons don't really die, do they? They're just reborn in the twisting nether, and if you've been a big fat failure like Varimathras, then a special kind of torment is saved for you. In Antorus, we find Varimathras holed up in the cheerily named Chamber of Anguish, where he's been tortured by the Coven of Shivarra for the last 8 years or so. Or, 800 Argus years, but whatever. And frankly, he doesn't look like he's been having a good time. Probably the most interesting thing about this encounter is the long speech he gives to the players before the fight begins, the wording of which changes depending on whether you're Horde or Alliance, but in either case is about Sylvanas and the plans of betrayal she's been laying all of these years. The bitter words of a defeated foe, or is there a grain of truth in Varimathras' claims? And might what he says be a clue as to what sparks the upcoming drama in the next expansion, Battle for Azeroth? Decide for yourselves, but either way, put this poor guy out of his misery, please. Imonar is, from a lore perspective at least, probably the most disappointing of all the characters we encounter in Antorus. Apparently, Imonar is the Legion's bloodhound, capable of tracking prey across the cosmos, which sounds very impressive, but actually he wasn't entrusted with the most important search of all, the epic hunt for Velen and the Draenei, which finally reached its conclusion on Draenor 25,000 years, 2.5 million Argus years, after it began, because that responsibility was given to Talgath, who we just took out in Macquarie. So whatever successful bounties Imonar has brought in, they're not ones that are considered important enough for us to know about, which makes him less of a Boba Fett, more of a dog bounty hunter kind of character. And not only that, but he is clearly a survival hunter too, so he probably wouldn't even get a raid spot, not being funny. I suppose it is just possible that one of Imonar's duties was to find the lost essences of the fallen titans of the Pantheon, which in fairness would be quite impressive. Oh, what's that? You need a refresher course on the titans of the Pantheon? Okay, fine, but it's gonna have to be quick. The Titans are beings of godlike power, of unknown origin, but who are quite literally born of planets. Once enough of them were born and found each other, they created the Pantheon and set about finding others of their kind, roaming the cosmos in search of planets that might be harboring a world soul, a nascent new Titan, and helping them come truly into being. Of these Titans, Sargeras and his apprentice Aggramar functioned as the Pantheon's pest control department, killing pesky demons as and when they found them, and then, much later, when it became obvious that demons are essentially WoW's version of Keith Richards and can't actually be killed, imprisoning them all on the planet Mardum. Eventually, Sargeras encountered glimpses of the Void Lords, an evil so dense and powerful that it scared even him, and soon after came across a new unborn world soul that had been corrupted by the Void's very own parasite peons, the Old Gods. Realizing that a Void-corrupted Titan would be the worst thing that could ever possibly happen in the history of anything ever, Sargeras destroyed the planet with his sword and headed back to the Pantheon to warn the other Titans, who annoyingly were more concerned that he killed the newly discovered world soul than with the terrible danger that Sargeras now knew was facing all of creation. So Sargeras chose the obvious solution, which was to kill the rest of the Pantheon, including his body Aggramar, release all the demons from Mardum, and create his own personal demon army and set off on the Burning Crusade, whose mission statement is basically, the worst possible thing that can happen is that the Void Lords corrupt all life in the universe. The best thing we can do is to simply destroy all life in the universe. 1-0 us, eat shit Void Lords. In the meantime, of course, the Titans had discovered the most powerful world soul of all in Azeroth, but that's not important to this part of the story, okay? The main thing you need to know is that the Titans are dead, or at least they were. Shivarra are another demonic race that long-time players will be familiar with, and the Coven are the baddest of them all, acting as Sargeras' head torturers after proving themselves the most depraved and fanatical of all of his followers. And you get the feeling they relish their work. They're the ones who made Varimathras look like old Anakin on an especially bad day. Hell, they even continue with his fire torture as he's fighting your raid group. Honestly, these girls don't give a shit. But when we encounter them in Antorus, they are slap bang in the middle of servicing their most high-profile clients to date, the Titans of the Pantheon. Oh yeah, remember 30 seconds ago when I explained to you very clearly that the Titans were dead? It turns out they're not really dead after all. Just before Sargeras destroyed their bodies, Norganon managed to protect their souls and fling them out into the cosmos. Over the millennia, Sargeras has managed to gather their souls, with or without the help of Imonar, I'm gonna say not, and is currently utilizing every drop of the Shivarra's vicious cruelty in an attempt to break the fallen Titans and create his own dark pantheon. Because seriously, what do you get the Fel Lord who has everything? A dark pantheon, obviously, or an Amazon Echo, whatever. They even managed to torment what remains of the Titans into launching attacks on the players. Aman'Thul collapses time, Golganeth summons storms, Khaz'goroth explodes in flames, and Norganon spawns pesky arcane images anywhere. And yes, that means in this fight we are getting attacked by actual Titans, and that is something I never thought I'd say in this game. But to be fair, the rest of this video is going to be full of me saying things I didn't ever think I'd say about this game, because those of you who know your Titans will have noticed that there's a couple of names missing from that list of tormented souls. Eonar the Lifebinder, the creator of Freya, who we fight in Ulduar, the giver of power to Alexstrasza, who gives up her powers to defeat Deathwing, and Ysera, who, okay, look, it's probably best not to tell Eonar too much about what's been going on since she became a soul fugitive, and anyway, we've got bigger worries right now, because Eonar's is the last remaining uncaptured Titan essence. The Legion haven't recovered her yet, but they have just this moment found her. So us turning up right now is basically better timing than Lenny Bruce telling a joke about an atomic clock. In Antorus, we actually encounter Eonar long before the Coven of Shivarra and the other Titans, but I saved her for now so we could do all the Titans at once for dramatic effect, hope you don't mind. In the raid encounter, it's our job to hold off the Legion forces while she regains her strength and physical form, and it's really good to see that although she clearly hasn't skipped leg day, she has saved vital seconds by not bothering to form herself any clothing. Good thinking, Eonar, every moment counts. And with Eonar rescued and the other Titans freed from their torment, there's just one left unaccounted for. Possibly the most tragic of all the fallen Titans is Aggramar, because his death to Sargeras was the biggest betrayal. Aggramar was Sargeras' wingman, his friend, and his brother-in-arms. He was the first that Sargeras struck down, and the first that Sargeras raised to form his Dark Pantheon. His blade still broken from when the Demon Lord's sword passed through it in their short battle. Now he is Sargeras' champion, and overseer of Sargeras' ultimate plan. More important than even the raising of the old Titans to do his bidding is the birth of a new Titan, the world soul of the planet Argus itself in his own image. Yes, that's right. Argus has a world soul. Sargeras wants it for his own purposes, because of course he does, and we have to head to the core of the planet itself to try and stop that happening. And Aggramar is the last obstacle standing on our way. And the fact that we are fighting Aggramar is well, ridiculous frankly, and wonderful. This is an especially exciting fight if you're an Orc player. Aggramar is the Titan who first discovered Draenor and terraformed it. He created the mountain giant Grond to keep its plant life in check, and since the Orcs are direct descendants of Grond, Orcs, when you fight Aggramar, you are quite literally fighting your creator. You are killing God. In life, Aggramar was brave, loyal, and generally just an all-round Tom Hanks level of solid stand-up kind of guy, so it's heartbreaking that we are forced to fight him at all, but don't get too upset. I've got a sneaky and very spoilery feeling that we may just be doing him a favour by defeating him here, and that maybe all he needs is a bit of raid team tough love to get him back to his former self. I don't know, it's just a feeling I have. There's no way to gently build up to this. The final encounter of the Antorus raid, the final encounter of Legion, takes place in the pantheon of the Titans itself. Having freed their souls and got the band back together, we have only the newly birthed world soul of Argus to beat to end the Legion and bring to a close over 10,000 years of Legion threats to Azeroth. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, hang on, Taliesin, we were just in the heart of a planet like 5 seconds ago. How do we get to the seat of the pantheon, which is basically like space heaven? And aren't the Titans meant to be as big as planets? How can we manage to come up to their knees? That would make us as big as Norway at least. And yes, these are good questions, I'm glad you asked, but the fact is, no one is really going to know the answer to that until next week when the raid opens and we get the cutscene, or fingers crossed, cinematic that tells us how. But if I had to guess, I'd say that, oh no, we didn't manage to stop Argus being born, but luckily the Titans have regained enough of their power to teleport us up to the seat of the Pantheon, where we are suddenly big enough to stand a chance against the Titan, and with them mustering the energy to occasionally give us a helping hand, who knows, you might even get away with this one. But however it actually happens, here we are fighting an actual new Titan, freshly born of Argus, with the newly restored Pantheon at our backs. And I'm sorry, but that is just freaking awesome. That's just awesome. For me though, the main question is, where is Sargeras in all of this? Because as stated at the very beginning, in my opinion, there is absolutely no way that Blizzard are going to let this one last chance pass them or us by. There is no way that we are going to resurrect the Titans, reform the Pantheon, and bring an end to the Burning Legion without getting to fight the big guy himself. No way. We know that there is a mythic-only phase to this fight, and I will bet you right now that that will involve us taking on Sargeras in some way. Maybe he's using Argus as his avatar. Maybe he'll appear in the flesh, as it were. And we will get our chance, finally, to take a proper crack at him at the end of this raid. I've waited 15 years for this. All I have to do now is save up enough gold for a mythic carry, and finally I too can be part of WoW history. I can't wait. Thanks for joining us today. If you liked this video, don't thank us, thank Hazelnutty Games and No One 182, who basically supplied all of the raid footage that we used. Hate that PTR, thanks guys. If you don't know them already, go and check out their channels right now, because they both do amazing things, both of them amazing. And our patrons, who give their actual real life money to help keep them coming. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is Nobble. No, but seriously, there's nothing he could tell you that we don't cover in this video, okay? Absolutely nothing, you understand? Good. No, my name is Taliesin from me and Evitel. Cheerio.